he gives us insights which we don't usually think about. So now, he wrote it about Eretz Yisrael in his Perush on the Torah, his Drasha on Kohelet, his Drasha on the Ramban, nearly in every sefer which he speaks about. And I explained last week, 2 weeks ago, that the Ramban gets to Eretz Yisrael after the great debate which takes place in Barcelona, and he gives his famous Drasha on Rosh Hashanah. And his Drasha on Rosh Hashanah, at the end he speaks about his feelings and what it means to him to come. And he looks in the Tanakh. And the Tanakh, in actual fact, for him, is the basis of all his insights. And he quotes a pasuk in Sefer Hosea. Let's look in the words of Hosea. You've got the wrong page, Harold.
I have it.
Oh, that's mine. Oh, okay, right.
No, I printed it as well.
Oh, okay, right. You don't trust anybody. Al tismach Yisrael el gil ha'amim. El gil ka'amim. Don't be happy. Now, Hosea is a very morbid book. It's perhaps one of the most horrendous books besides Yirmiyahu.
It can scare the hell out of you.
Correct. Okay. Correct.
I'm studying Hosea now.
Pardon? Oh, you're studying Hosea. You want to take my job? It's okay. Right.
No, I just.
It does. It's very scary. Okay? And at the end of the Sefer, he says the following. Al tismach Yisrael. Don't be too happy. El gil ka'amim. To look at the rejoicing of the people. Ki zanita. You've had znus. You created adultery. Me'al elokecha. Ahavta etnan. You've loved other things. Al kol gronot agan, and all HaKadosh Baruch Hu can give you. Goren v'yekev lo yir'am, the threshing floor and the olive oil press, lo yir'am, will not make any noises. V'tirosh, and the new grapes, yikachesh ba. Now, and here comes a concept. Lo yeshvu be'eretz Hashem. Am Yisrael won't live in the land of Hashem. V'shav Ephraim Mitzrayim, and Ephraim will go down to Egypt. Uba Ashur, and go to Ashur. Tamei yochelu, there they eat things which are impure. Now, the words Lo yeshvu be'eretz Hashem. Eretz Yisrael is called in Hosea Eretz Hashem. We don't find it anywhere in the Tanakh. The land of Hashem. We call it Eretz Yisrael. We call it Eretz HaTzvi, Eretz HaChayim, Eretz HaKodesh. But Eretz Hashem, this is something exclusive. And the Ramban, in his drosha, he says the following, line number 10. Umahu ha'inyan hazeh Eretz Hashem. Why is it called Eretz Hashem? V'chi ein kol ha'olam Eretz Hashem. It's in the whole world, the land of Hashem. Hakol bara, everything he created. Hakol yatzar, everything he formed. V'akol shelo, and everything belongs to him. So, Ela, Yisod hadavar hazeh. The foundation of this pasuk is found in Ha'azinu. Now, why is Ha'azinu so important? Ha'azinu is important because it's the only thing which HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, write this shirah down. He tells it to write this shir. Ktov et hashirah hazat vaya le'ed. This is going to be a testimony. All the rest of the Torah, okay, and let me explain it first, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling Moshe Rabbeinu, and when Moshe Rabbeinu writes it down. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu writes it down. Here, in Ha'azinu, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in actual fact writing it, so to speak. So this is the tzava'ah, the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us. Now, it's divided up into 7 sections. Ha'azinu. And each aliyah is brought in the Gemara. Haziv lach. Ha'azinu, zchor yemot olam, yivonenenu v'yisovevenu, okay, so, etc., etc. They used to read it in the Beis HaMikdash, divided up into 7 Shabbatot. Shabbos Mincha. It's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. I will read it out to you that you believe me. The Gemara says in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, says the following. Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph. The Gemara says that Ma hayu omrim. What did they used to say on Shabbos in Mincha? Says the Gemara, Omarav Anan Barava Amarav Haziv Lach. Parshat, Rashi says, Parshat Ha'azinu Cholkim ota l'shisha prakim. 6 parts. Ha'azinu, Hasheni Zechor Yemot Olam, Shlishi Yarkivehu, Eretz Revi'i Vayin'atz, etc., etc., etc. Okay? And that is why the aliyot of Parshat Ha'azinu never ever change. This is the only parsha in the whole of the Torah where what? Where we have fixed aliyot. The only one. From the time of the Gemara. Okay? And that's why you can never have any hosafot on Parshas Ha'azinu. Because these have to be exactly the aliyot, because this is division of the Shira. Yes?
What happened when they used to read it every 3 years? Were you just talking about...
Always every Shabbos. It was no, there's a difference. Okay? But Ha'azinu always was said like this. That means the division of the Torah, very good question, the division of the Torah, and I'll give you another example. When they divide it up in the 3 years, then you have a problem, for instance, about Parshat B'chukotai and Parshat Nitzavim, that they've got to be before, but they always read it. That means it wasn't according to the order then. The order didn't worry us. Now Ha'azinu was always done in this way, and this was read every day in the Beis HaMikdash. It was read every Shabbos in the Beis HaMikdash. Shirat Ha'azinu. Okay, it's brought in the Rambam. What's wrong, Harold?
No. Every Shabbos throughout the year?
Every Shabbos throughout the year. That was the Shir Shel Yom. The Shir Shel Yom was, that's what the Gemara says.
You said it Mincha.
Says the Gemara. Mincha, afternoon. Okay, that was the Shir Shel Yom. It says, 1 minute. 1 minute. Let me just make sure that I'm saying correct. 1 minute. Ma hayu omrim. Yeah, ma shir amru. What was the shir of Yom of Shabbos? Sorry, Parshas Ha'azinu. No, they didn't used to say
The
that.
entire...
Pardon?
The entire Parsha.
In the afternoon, because there was shir shel boker. No, divided up every 6 weeks.
Okay.
Every Parsha,
So every
7 weeks they started
recycle.
recycle. Right. That was Parshat Ha'azinu. What begins Parshat Ha'azinu? The beginning of Parshat Ha'azinu is after Ha'azinu Hashemayim V'Adabera, says the Torah, Banchel Elyon Goyim, line number 11 in front of you. Banchel Elyon Goyim, line number 11. Right? In the drosha of the Rosh Hashanah, line number 11. Here. Yeah. Banchel Elyon Goyim, Ba'afrido B'nei Adam. Kodesh Baruch Hu divides up nations, separates people. Each country gets its own nation, etc. Takes place when? Migdal Bavel. Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Babylon. Banchel Elyon Goyim, Ba'afrido b'nei Adam. Ki chelek Hashem, the portion of Hashem goes to his people. The chelek Hashem, the portion of Hashem, goes to his people.
We never translated it that way.
I know you didn't.
Thank you. This is better.
Right?
Keep coming back.
בחל עליון גויים ברפידו בני אדם יצא גבולות עמים לנספה בישראל כי חלק השם עמו ישראל חבל נחלתו. והעניין כי השם הנכבד ברא שמיים וארץ. הקדוש ברוך הוא created the world. ושם כוח התחתונים בעליונים, and he gave each nation certain powers above, מלוכים. ונתן על כל עם ועם בארצותם לגוייהם כוכב ומזל. Each nation had his own mazal in the world. Okay? I'm not an astrologer, don't understand. Okay? However you want to understand it, understand it. קשה ידוע בספרי ההצטגנינות, as you know from the book of astrologers. וזהו שנאמר, אשר חילק השם אלוקיך אותם, כי חילק להם מזלות בשמיים, וגבוהים עליהם מלאכי עליון נתנם להיות שרים עליהם, קניין שנאמר, ושר מלכות פרס עומד לנקי, ספר דניאל, וכתיב, והנה שר יוון בא, also in דניאל, ונקראים מלאכים, דכתיב, אני נוצרתי שם אצל מלכי פרס. והשם יסבורך, הוא אלוקי אלוקים, ואדוני האדונים לכל העולם. He sits above. Yet, what? But he doesn't give Eretz Yisrael to anybody else. That's his. That's his direct responsibility. Hashem only deals with Eretz Yisrael. He left it, the whole world, to other people. Says the Ramban now, in Sefer Parshas Acharei Mos. V'nei Hashem hanichbad, and that's what it means, Eretz Hashem, the land of Hashem. Hashem has direct contact with Eretz Yisrael. Einei Hashem Elokecha ba, the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in it, Mereshit Hashana ad Achrit Hashana. Parshat Ekev.
Is there a definition of the borders?
Pardon?
Definition of what Eretz Yisrael
Is according to the borders, yes.
According to what?
The borders, what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Who lays the borders?
HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Torah. Parshat Masei are the borders of Eretz Yisrael. Parshat Masei speak about the borders of Eretz Yisrael. So we know exactly
The physical
the
borders.
physical borders. And that's considered Eretz Yisrael. Now, let's go back. והנה, השם הנכבד יתברך אלוקים בכל העולם, ואלוקי ארץ ישראל שהיא נחלת השם, this is נחלת השם. וזהו טעם, and this is the reason, וזנה אחרי אלוקי ניכר הארץ. כי האלוקות נוחרים בארץ השם ובנחלתו. Because other gods, so to speak, other powers which exist in Eretz Yisrael, says the Ramban, that is the greatest contradiction to Eretz Yisrael. Doesn't work. You can't have it. Now, v'zehu shene'emar. And this is what's written. What happens when Am Yisrael leave Eretz Yisrael? They are sent out, they're going to exile. And all of a sudden, the Babylonians bring over other nations to live in Eretz Yisrael. And what happens to them? All of a sudden, in Sefer Melochim, it's told that all wild animals come into Eretz Yisrael. Says the Ramban, v'zehu shene'emar, in Sefer Melachim, lo yadu et mishpat Elokei haaretz. They didn't know what the judgment of the land of Hashem is. Vayishlach bam et ha'arayot. V'inam memitzim otam. Kasher einam yodim et mishpat Elokei haaretz. They don't know what it means to live in Eretz Yisrael. Now, says the Rambam, V'nei akutim, these people, lo yunei nashim ba'artzam ba'ovdam et alehem. These goyim who was brought to Eretz Yisrael, they weren't punished in their lands for worshipping Avodah Zarah. right? והנה הכותים לא היו נענשים בארצם בעובדם את אלוהיהם לשלח בהם את האריות. ובבואם בארץ השם, when they come to Eretz Israel, ועשו שם כמעשה הראשונים, שלח בהם האריות. הקדוש ברוך הוא sends lions. What does that mean? The land doesn't tolerate anything else. The land.
People is a different case.
Pardon?
I see the people are a different case.
The people are a different case. But the land does not tolerate. That is what it means, Eretz Hashem, the land of Hashem. Yes.
I'm interested in the term that you use Elokei, Eretz Yisrael as opposed to Hashem. UK, it's like Elokim is like
Midas Hadin, exactly. It's the mishpat of the judge. There's no rachmonus. Okay? There's no rachmonus. Right. V'chein shanu b'sifra v'lo taki haaretz etchem. Eretz Yisrael eina kashar aratzot. Eina mekayemet ovrei aveira. It doesn't allow people who worship idols. Ubesifrei ve'ein imo el nechar. And with him there's no other God. Shelo tei reshut le'echad misarei umot lavo lidlot bachem. Etc., etc. That, in a nutshell, is the concept of Eretz Yisrael. Now, what does this mean? And now we're going to go down. We're going to jump over a little bit, and we're going to go right to the beginning. What does this mean? And I'm going to jump over because I'm changing the order of the concepts. Okay? We're going to start off with line number 65. Line number 65, the Ramban in Malki Tzedek Melech Shalem. Okay, Malki Tzedek is the one who comes out to Avram Avinu and what? And brings out to him, what's it called? King of Storm, and then comes Malki Tzedek, etc., etc. Umalki Tzedek Melech Shalem, Hi Yerushalayim. Line number 66, Phil. Sorry, 66. Umalki Tzedek Melech Shalem, Hi Yerushalayim. Kinyan shene'emar, Vahi b'Shalem Sukkot. Shalem is Yerushalayim. Umalka yikare gam b'imei Yoshua Adoni Tzedek. Ki me'az yadu agoyim. From way before, the whole world knew, Ki hamakom hahu mivchar hamakomot. Eretz Yisrael is something special. O sheyadu ma'alato b'Kabbalah, שהוא מכוון כנגד בית המקדש של מעלה, ששם שכינתו של הקדוש ברוך הוא שנקרא צדק. So therefore, they called it these names. They called it Shalem. They called it Tzedek. Why should they be called these names? Says the Ramban, they had some tradition regarding Eretz Yisrael. Now, what does this mean, the tradition? And now we're going to learn something which is quite fascinating of the Ramban in another one of his drashot. And he says the following, line number 75. V'od HaTorah Me'irat Einayim. What have we got the Torah for? It opens up our eyes. Afilu b'sipurim u'ma'asim sheba. Shekulam chokhmah gdola. They are all great wisdom. Shoresh ha'emunah, foundation of faith. Shaharei ata yodea, mipishtei haktuvim. You can learn from the simple reading of the Torah. Now you don't need any commentaries on what the Ramban's going to say. Amram, Avi Moshe, Ra'a Levi. Work out the ages of Amram. He met Levi, his great grandfather. Right? Now, Levi, hu ra'a Yaakov. Levi, Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov lamad Torah mipi Shem ben Noach. Yaakov learned Torah from Shem ben Noach. If you work out how old Shem was when he died, you will see that in actual fact, Yaakov meets Shem. Even more so, Yaakov lives with Avraham Avinu 15 years.
Lucky
15 years. Okay? How do we know that? Because...
We went back to Abraham after we got to Rabbi Yaakov.
Correct, but I'm just giving another example.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Okay? ויעקב למד תורה משם בן נוח. כי הנה, בין 50 שנה היה יעקב, you can work it out, if you're a bit of a mathematician, okay? שכשמת שם בן נוח, יעקב אבינו was 50 years old. Right? What do you say?
you live a long time.
He did, 900 years approximately, Shem ben Noach. Okay? Now, Shem ben Noach, what did he see? What did Shem ben Noach see in his life? Everything. The flood, a whole new world. He directly tells Yaakov Avinu all these stories. Right? That means it's not history books. I saw it. Okay?
If you look that long.
What? No, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay? I saw it. That's what the Ramban is trying to tell us. The Torah doesn't create for us just a book. He tells us of the people, and that's why the Torah was so particular, telling us how each one of these people, how long they lived. That's why. The length of life is a function of tradition. Okay? Think of that. Okay? It's tradition. Okay? For instance, let's take, I don't know if Phil's the oldest person here or not, but let's say he is. Okay? Let's say he is. Okay? I'm not going into what? Right. Okay? So we're not going to say how old he is. Okay? But approximately, he's seen, okay, from before the war. So a few of you will be. That means you knew of destruction, you knew of rebuilding. I was born after the creation of the state. So I didn't know. I only know from my mother, Aliyah Shalom, what it was. But the other people, directly. Now this makes an impact on people because it's not books, it's not recordings. It is what? Experience, direct creation, direct relationships. First, very good, first-hand experience. So Noach, Shem ben Noach, was in the ark. He can tell Yaakov Avinu what it was like to live in a zoo. To live with animals. Remember, there were only 4 people besides women and children there. They were responsible for the zoo. Now, let's carry on. Okay? כי הנה בן 50 שנה היה יעקב כשמת שם בן נוח. והוא שהכריז על עם גדול ועצום ורב בין החצומים מחשבים ועוברי שמיים ואומר בפרסום אבי הגיד לי, my father told me. Why? כי אבי אביו, his great father, grandfather. Now, Shem ben Noach meets Adam Rishon. You work it out. He meets Adam Rishon. Shem ben Noach asks Adam Rishon, who was your dad? Who was your grandfather? Never had one. Right. So therefore, what does the Torah tell us? Why is the Torah particular in telling us ages of people? Because people first-hand met them. And that's what the Ramban says now. Ki avi aviv ra'a briat ha'olam. Shahamabul kamo briat ha'olam. The mabul was like the new creation. All the animal, everybody dies. So, Noach, Yaakov Avinu meets Shem ben Noach, etc., etc., etc. Right. Now this Shem ben Noach meets Adam Rishon. He asks Adam Rishon, yeah, but when you found yourself, where did you live? What were you told? Who did you communicate with? Adam Shem ben Noach sees Adam Arish said Noach being told to build an ark. He told you to build it. Now, all these things, says the Ramban, creates for us a new conceptual idea. It wasn't that one day somebody gets up and says, I had a dream. No, we have the people.
Facts.
Pardon?
Mamash tachlis.
Tachlis. Now, what does Adam HaRishon tell? What's it called? Shem ben Noach. And what was the Masorah? And remember, that is why it was so important for the Torah to tell us name after name. Historical continuity. Name after name, person after person, ages when they died and when they began to have children. Remember, in Parshat Bereshit, it's so important. Let me just get a chumash. Hold on a minute.
Here.
In the back.
Well, oh, right. Okay. What is it? It says like this. Let's give ourselves an example. Vayimalel 5 shanim v'shishim shana. Vayoled et Yared. We know exactly when his children were born. And when he dies. When he's born, when he's died, etc., etc. It's not stam that the Torah writes these two concepts. Time of birth, time of death. Because you can work out exactly who saw whom, who met whom. What did they see in their world? That's why the whole of the end of Sefer Bereshis is there. Because Cain knows he was thrown out, he murdered somebody. His father was thrown out of Gan Eden, etc., etc. That is what the Ramban says is so important in Sefer Bereshis. We have continuity of storytelling. Generation, father to son, father to grandson, father to great-great-grandson. Yes,
Does
questions?
it actually say that Yaakov learned Torah with Shem? Isn't it Midrash? Or you just assume because they lived at the same time or what?
Yeah.
Or tradition?
No, but that doesn't make any difference. The possibility of meeting,
It was around at
and they were the same family. Remember, that is what's so important. Avram comes from Shem ben Noach. That means there's continuity one after the other. Right.
It doesn't mean it was physically so.
Yeah, listen, I don't know whether Shem suffered from Alzheimer's. Okay? Whether he suffered from Alzheimer's, whether he remembered everything. Okay? But it's there. That means the story is continuity. It's right. Yes, that's what it says. Melchizedek Melech Shalem is Shem ben Noach. That's what the Ramban said before. He knows that what? That there's certain places in the world where HaKadosh Baruch Hu put his name on. Right. Now, where does this all begin?
And who gets this certificate?
Pardon?
And we
HaKadosh Baruch Hu dictates this to Moshe. Now, that is the Torah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens here? Moshe Rabbeinu goes to Har Sinai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu dictates to him word for word.
Yeah.
That's what we believe. Okay, if we don't believe it, then there's nothing to base out our whole thing. And that's why the Rambam says every single word in the Torah we have to believe that this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu dictated to Moshe. Now, let me try to define this. What does this mean? Every other Novi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't dictate to. HaKadosh Baruch Hu appears to the Novi. Moshe Rabbeinu is like a scribe. Okay? He's like a typewriter, automatic typewriter. The whole of Sefer Bereshis, until it's written Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Daber el Bnei Israel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, doesn't interfere. It's written as a story, and that's why it's not written in the beginning of the Torah. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe le'emor Bereshis bara Elokim. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to feel that it's part of the story. And Moshe Rabbeinu is the scribe, is the typewriter of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now let's go back to creation. We all know the famous question of Rashi. Rashi comes and says, why didn't the Torah begin with HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem? And Rashi has his answer. Okay, we're not going to use the answer of Rashi. We're going to use the explanation of the Ramban. And says the Ramban, line number 86. V'natan Rabbi Yitzchak tam lezeh. Ki itchila haTorah bivreishis boro Elokim. V'sipur kol inyan hayitzira, and he tells us all of the creation of the world, ad briat Adam. V'shehim shilo v'masei yadav. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu sort of rules him, gives him over the power, the dominion. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him the power. And that's what he says, v'kivshu et ha'aretz. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes him into the king of the world, Adam Arishon. V'chol shat tachat raglav. V'gan Eden shu mivchar ha'makomot, and Gan Eden, which is the best of the places, hanivraim ba'olam hazeh, na'aseh machon l'shivto. Ad shegiresh oto chet'o misham. Until his sin caused him to be thrown out. Right? V'anshei dor hamabul b'chet'am, and the sin of the dor hamabul, with their sin, gurshu min haolam kulo, they were completely destroyed. There was nothing left of them. V'atzadik Noach bahem levado nimlat hu vanav. V'zar'am chet'am garam lehem, and the children of Noach, their chet caused them to be scattered all around the world, the Tower of Babel. Ulzarotam, and separate them, scatter them in all the worlds. V'tafsu lehem hamkomot lemishpachotam b'yohem k'fi shenizdamen lehem. Imken, if that is the case, ra'uyhu. Let's look at the pattern of the first two parashas of Sefer Bereshis. What is the pattern? The pattern of the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world is, you behave yourself, you stay where you are. You don't behave yourself, you get thrown out. Sometimes from your country, sometimes from your world completely, and sometimes scattered all over the world. That's the pattern of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. With humans.
Not with all humans.
With all humans, yes, doesn't make any difference.
The Chinese also?
What?
The Chinese also?
Chinese have had muzzle.
Of course, I'm saying.
They're the only ones who have had muzzle. If you take it, okay? If you take it, China's never been overcome except by the Chinese-Japanese war. Okay? But I'm saying, generally, that is the pattern of the world. Okay? Spain conquers South America, Belgium, Congo, until they're thrown out, etc., etc. That's the cycle of, we don't know, we don't have set patterns, okay, of years how long this takes.
And we don't know what we should.
And we don't know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. But that is the pattern which the Ramban creates. And now, this is his theory. Im kein ra'ui, kasher yosif hagoy lachto. Line number 95. Kasher yosif hagoy lachto. When this nation carries on sinning, sheyaved mimkomo, he loses his place. V'yaboy go acher laresh t'arzo. Ki kein hu mishpat ha'elokim ba'aretz me'olam. That is the plan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Which line was that? 95?
93.
Oh, 93.
Im ken ra'uyhu. This is the foundation of the Ramban. Adam Rishon sins, what happens to him? Thrown out of Gan Eden. Dor HaMabul, get thrown out of the world. Dor HaPalaga, thrown out of, mixed up completely. That's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu works. Okay? V'kol sheken, even more so. Ima mesupar bakatuv, ki knan mekulal v'nimkar le'eved olam. ואינו ראוי שירש מבחר מקומות היישוב. Canaan lived in Eretz Yisrael. But what happens to them? They eventually get taken over by Eretz Am Yisrael. אבל ירשו עובדי השם זרו אוהביו. כעניין שכתוב בתהילים. וייתן להם ארצות גויים. הקדוש ברוך הוא gave them lands of the nation. ועמל לאומים, and the hard toil of the people previously, ירשוהו. בעבור, why? ישמרו חוקיו ותורותיו, ינצורו. In order that Am Yisrael should keep. So therefore, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu plan for them? HaKadosh Baruch Hu plans for Am Yisrael, when Yeshua conquers it, they don't go into a desert. They go into a land which has already been toiled, which has already been worked on. It takes them into a palace. Okay? Think to yourselves, that is what happens when HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes Am Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. The land is ready for them. In inverted commas, going into a hotel. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. Because the other nations prepared it, and then they were thrown out because of all their averos.
So if they had done averos,
exactly,
they would have stayed there.
Exactly, right. Sheyedu v'ishkin bo avodav. Sheyedu ki ba'avodato yin chaluha. If they worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they will take it. V'im yechtu'u lo taki otam haaretz. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the land will throw them out. Ka'asher ka'a et hagoy lifneihem. The land will spew them out. What does this mean, guys? It means to say there are two cycles in the world. There's the chosen land and the chosen nation. The land is the constant. That is always there. Remember how we started off the first shir which we spoke about. We quoted from Yehi Chavod. What did we say in Yehi Chavod? We say every single day, and we looked in the order of it, and there it was written, Ki bachar Hashem b'tzion, iva lemoshav lo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the constant. That is always there.
It's the same definition?
Pardon? That is always there. That is the Kodesh Kodoshim of the world. Eretz Yisrael is the Kodesh Kodoshim of the world. Who gets it? Anybody could have got it. Pardon? Whoever was worthy. Everybody could have got it.
Hashem didn't know that in advance?
Pardon?
He didn't know in advance that that would happen? Okay, okay.
What do you mean, didn't he know?
The nations before, when he created the whole thing, with Eretz Yisrael being the Kadosh Arkan, he gave, other nations got here first.
Correct.
But they weren't able, they weren't
matim. They weren't matim for it.
Okay, but the Hashem didn't know that from the beginning.
What do you mean didn't know that from the beginning?
He gave them a choice.
Everybody, Adam Arishon was in Gan Eden. He has a choice to eat or not to eat.
Okay, so they all had the choice and they did the wrong choice.
Exactly, they make the wrong choices.
Okay.
We are exactly the same. But where every other nation disappears, we stayed. Because that's the other Bechira of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But do the two meet? Does the Holy Land meet with the Holy Nation?
Yes.
That is dependent on what? On us. That is the history. Yeah.
That explains why, according to the Ramban, that it doesn't start why it starts with Bereshit Bara.
That's why it has to start with Bereshis. Who HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what he creates, he then puts Adam Arishon in Gan Eden. Sin causes Adam Arishon to be thrown out of Gan Eden. That is the punishment. You don't deserve it. Right? To be in Gan Eden, you have to deserve. The minute you make your mistakes, finished. Then comes the next ones. Okay? The Middle East is taken over by the children of Adam Arishon, Bavel, etc., etc. What happens? The flood. It gets to a stage after 1,000 years. Now think to yourself, we're talking about 1,000 years until the flood. Okay, it's not 10 years after Gan Eden. Okay, the world goes down. The people of the world go down, etc., etc. What happens? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in inverted commas, sees these people have lost it. Revolution. Sometimes the revolution comes from the people themselves, and sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu does it to them. Sometimes he brings a tsunami. What? Sometimes he brings a tsunami, a natural tsunami. That is the flood. Okay, everybody can learn pshat the way they want to. I'm not talking politics. Okay? But the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the other one is that people don't understand one another. They can't talk to one another, which happens the whole time. You don't speak the same language. Okay? That is the history of the first two parshias until Lech Lecha, Avram Avinu. Right. That's why Bereshis is so important. The first two chapters, the first two parishes of Bereshis actually give us a historical synopsis of what's going to be in the world. You learn Bereshis and Parshas Bereshis and Parshas Noach. That is the plan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. How long it will take, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's what you asked me the first question. The when question is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's decision. But we know the plan. We know the plan.
Well, you're talking about the conjunction of free will and God's plan.
Exactly. And they've got to meet. Now,
When they meet, it works. When it doesn't meet,
exactly. Right. Now let's go back. That's the thesis. The thesis of the Ramban is HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses the best place for you. Now let's go back to Eretz Yisrael. Let's go back to what we're going to learn, read in 2 weeks' time. Parshas B'chukoisai. Line number 55. Line 53. Sorry I jumped around. Okay? But I felt that this is the correct way of doing things after I thought about it whilst I was driving. Okay? Now, 55. 52. Ramban says in Parshas B'chukoisai, V'hinei v'hu hanachon. This is what's correct. Ki tiyeh Eretz Yisrael, when Eretz Yisrael be'et kiyum hamitzvot, kasher haya ha'olam mitchilato, kodem chet'o shel Adam harishon. If Am Yisrael keep all the mitzvahs, then you're going to go back to a situation of Adam harishon before he sins. That is the brachos. The brachot of B'chukotai Teilechu. And you're going to have everything. Then what? You're going to have everything great. And it's going to be similar to the situation that the history turns around. We go back. Now, Ein, in inverted commas, Ein chaya v'remes me'mit adam. Animals won't kill people. Como she'amru. Ein arod me'mit. The snake doesn't kill. Ela chet me'mit. V'zeu she'katav, hakatuv v'sheyasha yonek al churpatin. A baby can play next to a hole of a python. V'chein para v'dov tirena v'acha yochal. Ki lo haya, in the time of Gan Eden, ki lo haya teref v'chayot ra'ot. In the time of Adam Harishon, animals didn't kill animals. They were vegetarians. Animals were vegetarians. That's what happened in Gan Eden until after the flood. Everybody was a vegetarian. Because, Mapitom, you can take a life of somebody else. A life is a life. It doesn't make any difference whom. Ki lo haya teref b'chayot ra'ot. Rak mipnei chet'o shel Adam, כי נגזר עליו להיות טרף לשניהם, והוא שם הטרף טבע להם, גם לטרוף זו את זו. The minute a man sinned, automatically he becomes a prey for somebody. Okay? So therefore, what is Eretz Yisrael in actual fact? Eretz Yisrael therefore becomes a situation whereby we live in a certain Gan Eden. Now, take one period of history where it was exactly like that. And that was the period of Shlomo HaMelech. A few years ago we learnt about Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech, the term is Shleimus. He had the ability...
Excuse me, what's the noise?
It's outside. It's outside.
It's outside, don't worry.
Shleimus. Complete. Everything was perfect. The whole world recognizes Shlomo HaMelech. He doesn't fight one battle. He doesn't have to do anything. Everybody comes to him. The world is at a period of perfection. And what happens? And he builds the Beis HaMikdash. And the world comes to him. And they see the magnificent edifices which he builds. And he creates an environment in Eretz Yisrael which, lich'oira, outwardly, is perfect. And what does he write? He writes Shir HaShirim. Shir HaShirim. And he writes Mishle. And he writes Kohelet, philosophy. But what's so special about Shir HaShirim is that the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is also not mentioned. Two Megillot where the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu isn't mentioned. One is Megillat Esther. Okay? Because there HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hidden. Yeah?
There is, at the very end of Shishri, which is UK.
Midrashim. Okay? It's Midrashim. If you read Shir HaShirim from the beginning to the end, you will not find the name of Hashem. Okay?
And why is that?
Why is that? Okay? Because a name is an identity. A name creates a he. There is somebody like that. When two people love each other, there's me and you. You don't need names. You don't need names. Husband and wife don't need names. They live together. Are you?
Us.
Us. A name creates, there's somebody like you, like him. That's what a name does. ID card creates names. But in real relationships, there's only what? Us. Me and you. Husband and wife don't need names. Sometimes parents and children don't need names. Okay? There's just an absolute connection where you don't need any names at all.
Your body language.
Pardon?
Your body language showed it right now with your fingers.
Right. That is Shir HaShirim.
But you know, Shlomo...
Well, let me just finish. That is Shir HaShirim. Shir HaShirim speaks about the absolute love between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I just want to finish with one word. Because there's a very interesting Rambam on this. Let me just see if there's a Rambam here. We got here. Right. Sefer Rambam. The end of Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam says the following. Avram was called Ohavi, the one who loves me. V'keitzad I ahava haruya. How's the complete love? שאהב את השם גדולה יתרה עזה מאוד. כאילו חולי אהבה. He's got a sickness of love. He wants to be so connected. שאין דעתו פנויה מאהבת אותה אישה. A person loves his wife, he can't stop thinking about her. בין בקומו, בין בשבטו. Okay? והוא ששלמה אמר דרך משל, כי חולת אהבה אני. My love is a sickness. I can't get away from it. So therefore, what is Shir HaShirim? That is the period of Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech gives us a framework of the absolute perfection. There's us, but it doesn't last. It can't last. It's a utopia. It's a utopia. It's something which we have to aim for, have the ambition to get there. That's why these are the brachot. Look at the time, and that's what the Torah says, and that's what the Ramban in actual fact is telling us. Guys, if we've received Eretz Yisrael, that means HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us something, and that's what he felt when he arrived in Eretz Yisrael. And that was under the Ottoman Empire still. In the times of the Crusades, and they were all coming, and they were fighting, etc., etc. Okay? The way the Ramban perceives this concept about Eretz Yisrael is, there's a possibility of creating this Gan Eden here. It exists. It exists. And that is what Eretz Yisrael is to the Jewish people. That is the constant. Okay? The changing is us. Eretz Yisrael is always there for us, and that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us. But there's mishpat Elokei ba'aretz. You have to be aware. You're in the palace. Can you afford to make mistakes or not? Yaakov Avinu, the Ramban will tell us, marries 2 wives. 2 sisters. Rachel and Leah. Says the Ramban. The minute Yaakov Avinu enters Eretz Yisrael, Rachel dies. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want two sisters. Okay, which means to say your awareness of all this. The minute Yosef and his brothers begin to argue with one another, exactly, poof, and they all go down to Mitzrayim. And they've lost Eretz Yisrael for 210 years. That is the cycle of the way the Ramban portrays to us Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael, the whole of Sefer Bereshis speaks about, and here we get to the nitty-gritty of it. Okay? Yitzchok doesn't go out of Eretz Yisrael. Yishmael does. Yaakov and Esav, the minute they start fighting, what happens? Yaakov has to leave Eretz Yisrael. Yosef and his brothers, they have to leave Eretz Yisrael. That is Bereshis. The whole of the beginning of the Sefer of the Torah is HaKadosh Baruch Hu putting in this pattern, and that is the way the Ramban thinks. I'm not talking about other commentators. But the way the Ramban sees Sefer Bereshis is a historical pattern of the constant, the K. In a physical equation, the K is the constant. Eretz Yisrael is the constant. We are the ones who have to apply ourselves to Eretz Yisrael.
We're the variable.
We're the variables, exactly. The world is a variable, and especially Am Yisrael. But the brocha is that Eretz Yisrael can't take in anybody else. That is the brocha. No other nation could develop it. That means there's a brocha to it, but there's also a curse, because we've got to live up to the standards. And that is the way the Ramban sees Eretz Yisrael. Mirz Hashem, next year, we'll go back to where we started from, Rav Kook. We started off our journey in Eretz Yisrael with Rav Kook. Okay? And we'll end off with Rav Kook, because then we're going to learn Rav Kook again with the depths of what we've learnt in these shiurim.
2 weeks.
Whenever it is, I don't know.
Phil can get you a